You've probably felt this before. You walk into a conversation feeling normal, and you leave feeling guilty, confused, or like you've done something wrong, even when you haven't. And the worst part? You can't even explain why. Because no one shouted at you, no one insulted you, nothing obvious happened. But somehow, you feel responsible for someone else's emotions. This is not random. This is a pattern. And once you see it, you will never experience conversations the same way again. In this video, you'll learn the exact manipulation pattern being used, why it works so effectively on you, and how to break it immediately without confrontation. Because once you understand this, you stop being controlled without even realizing it. The first thing you need to understand is this: not all manipulation is loud. It doesn't look like pressure. It doesn't look like control. It looks like emotion. And that's exactly where the trap begins. Because instead of telling you what to do, the manipulator makes you feel what they want. And once they control how you feel, they control how you act. But here's what most people completely miss. This pattern doesn't start with you. It starts with them. There is a very specific sequence behind this behavior, and the first step is the one almost nobody notices, because it feels completely natural. But it isn't. The first step is emotional positioning. This is where the person subtly places themselves in a vulnerable, disappointed, or hurt state. Not aggressively, not dramatically, just enough for you to notice. It might sound like, "I just thought things would be different. It's okay, I'm used to it anyway. Don't worry about me." Nothing direct, nothing accusing. But something shifts, because now there's an emotional weight in the room, and your brain immediately tries to resolve it. This is where the second step takes over. And this is where the manipulation actually begins. The second step is silent responsibility transfer. This is the moment where their emotion becomes your problem. But they never say it directly. Instead, your mind fills in the gap. You start thinking, did I cause this? Should I fix this? Am I being unfair? Notice something important. They never asked you to feel this way. You arrived there on your own. And that's exactly why it works. Because when you convince yourself, it feels real. Now here's where it becomes dangerous. Because once you feel responsible, you start adjusting your behavior. Not because you want to, but because you feel like you have to. And that leads to the third step. The third step is behavioral compliance. This is where you start doing things you wouldn't normally do. You agree when you don't want to. You apologize when you didn't do anything wrong. You change your decisions to avoid hurting them. And from the outside, it looks like you're being kind. But internally, something feels off. Because your actions are no longer coming from choice. They're coming from pressure. Emotional pressure. And this is where most people get trapped long term. Because they mistake this pattern for empathy, kindness, emotional intelligence. But it's not. Because real empathy does not remove your freedom. Real empathy does not make you feel controlled. So why does this pattern work so well? Why do intelligent, capable people fall into this without noticing? There's one reason, and once you understand it, everything becomes clear. Your brain is wired to resolve emotional tension. When you sense discomfort in someone else, your instinct is to reduce it. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. And manipulators understand this. They don't need to force you. They just need to create the right emotional environment. And you will do the rest. Now, here's the most important part. Because once you see this, you have two choices. You can continue reacting automatically, or you can break the pattern. And breaking it does not require confrontation. It does not require conflict. It requires one simple shift. The moment you feel responsible for someone else's emotions, pause and ask yourself one question. Was this responsibility actually given to me, or did I take it? This single question interrupts the entire pattern because it forces you to separate what is yours and what is not. From there, the next step becomes clear. You allow them to feel what they feel without making it your job to fix it. You stay present, you stay calm, but you stop adjusting yourself out of pressure. And something interesting happens when you do this. One of two things will occur. Either the emotional pressure disappears, or the person escalates, and both outcomes reveal the truth. Because if the emotion disappears, it was never real pressure to begin with, and if it escalates, it means the control is no longer working. This is the moment where most people feel uncomfortable, because they are used to resolving everything. But discomfort is not a signal that you are doing something wrong. Sometimes it's a signal that you are finally doing something right. And once you stop absorbing emotional responsibility that isn't yours, you regain something most people don't even realize they've lost. Control, not over others, but over yourself. Because the real danger was never the other person. It was the automatic response inside you, and now you see it. But there is another pattern that works even deeper than this one. It doesn't just make you feel responsible, it makes you doubt your own perception of reality. And once that happens, you don't just adjust your behavior, you lose your clarity completely. Click on this next video to understand that pattern, because if you miss it, you won't even realize when it's happening to you. The end.